Today is Saturday, May 9th. Yeah, May. A springtime garden in Vermont. What a difference a week makes. It is in the 70s and carpeted in dandelions instead of snow. And in that last clip I had Cheeto dust on my chin. Didn't realize until afterward. I am Moonpetrie, and this is something new. This is a beta reading vlog. I have made videos about the process of having beta readers read my work, but I have not done any vlogs while I have personally been beta reading for somebody else. So I have been reading a lot of thrillers. I started reading the Dexter books by Jeff Lindsay in, I think it was March. I found the first one super enticing and delightful and read 4 more, even though I was getting less enthusiastic about them as I went. So I didn't end up finishing the series, but I did read 5 of those books. Then I read The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, which was super cool in a flashing back and forth, past and present kind of way, with a really fun setting of a fancy summer camp. I read Step on a Crack by James Patterson. It's the first in what I think is a really long series. James Patterson is like one of the most prolific writers I can think of. I had read some of his middle grade stuff, so I was expecting a big twist. So I wasn't super surprised by the twist, but it was a really fun, just cop adventure kind of vibe and some family stuff that was emotional without sort of swallowing up the adventure story that I was there for. I read The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Do not read this book if you have trouble with terrible, believable, realistic things happening to babies, or if you don't like the sort of book where you cannot find a single character you do not hate. Other than that, I mean, it was very convincingly written and dealt with alcoholism in a super believable way. Anxiety also in a super believable way. So if realistic, gut-wrenching portrayals of those things are distressing to you, also skip this book. It was a really great thriller, really intense thriller, but I wish I hadn't read it because I can't cope when bad things happen to babies. So after that, I read The Surgeon by Tess Gerritsen, and it was super. It was a serial killer cop book, so exactly the opposite of The Girl on the Train. It is procedural and not as personal, so I found it a refreshing change of pace. Then I read Bones on Ice by Kathy Reichs. It's actually just a novella. I've read a bunch of the other Bones books, the Temperance Brennan series. I also watched the series. I think I was really trying to push myself out of my comfort zone. It was kind of like desensitization therapy because it is really gory and I have a really hard time with that. But the books are very sort of clinical, very dry, and again, I was into that after too much too personal stuff. But then I went back to sort of intense, icky, scary personal stuff with Sharp Objects by, I don't know if it's Gillian Flynn or Gillian Flynn. It dealt with some really messed up family stuff. It was a satisfying read and definitely well written, kind of intense. Then I read The Girl Before by Rena Olson. It was incredible, again, doing the back and forth past to present thing. It wasn't exactly what I expected in a thriller, but was still very satisfying in how it unfolded, and it definitely had some scary points. So it sort of ticked a lot of the boxes without being a typical thriller. Do not read this if sex trafficking is distressing to you. And it was a little distressing to me. So after that, I went for a very sort of tough guy, mercenary kind of book, mostly action, a lot of gunfire, and not too much dwelling on the emotional repercussions of having been involved in these sorts of scenes. It was called Damage Control by John Gilstrap. I had never read anything by him before. It was actually the fourth, I think, in the series, which I didn't realize at first. It doesn't matter, I don't think. You can read these out of order. They're just straight up action adventure, and that was very fun. So all of these, or at least almost all of these, were adult and were thrillers, and so it was an incredibly refreshing change of pace when I got word from Emily Bourne that she was ready for beta readers. I was a beta reader for her debut in A Mirror, and I was so happy to be asked back to be a beta reader for In a Haze, which is the sequel. Now, this is YA contemporary with a lot of romance, and I was really delighted to shift gears from all of my serial killers and cops and really disturbing content. So I started reading with great excitement, and it felt like being on not just one vacation, because the characters, like Emily herself, are Australian, but 2 vacations, because one of the characters was spending a school year abroad in Europe. So she was living in Spain and doing some traveling to France and Italy. It was just so refreshing, and the concerns about, the things that are so intensely important to adolescents, that matter. They really matter, but are not life and death, are not serial killers. And so it's just, I just felt like dipping my toes in a fresh, cool pool. And then the book got very intense. So, as with single, standalone, where there's build up and then things get more intense, the character development gets more intense, the things that the characters struggle with or are up against get more intense. This being a series, the second book is heavier than the first and deals with a lot of stuff that really feels like these girls, Brittany and Charlie, are growing up, and kind of suddenly some things happen that cause them to have to deal with stuff on a more adult level. And this is normal. This is what happens with teenagers. And and I have a teenager right now who is missing prom and graduation and everything else because everything is canceled. And so to the class of 2020, my heart goes out to every single one of you. And so the rest of the book thus far, I'm past halfway now, has been kind of a roller coaster, very intense, a lot of fun, but also a lot of trying to cope with or rise above or process some really more challenging stuff than what they faced in the previous book. So it feels like Brittany and Charlie are growing up a lot, and I am looking forward to finishing the rest of it. Then I got a very exciting email that I have been chosen to beta read for someone else. Bug, whose YouTube channel is To Buggy, has been talking for a long time about this amazing book, Monsters and Imaginary Friends. It is adult, although it deals with a monster in the closet teaming up with a child's imaginary friend in order to fight off an actually bad monster. I haven't started it yet. This is the impression that I have. I'm super excited about it. I think that adult work that really remembers and preys upon the childhood imagination and fears can be so incredibly fun. So I'm super psyched to be about to embark on that as well. And now it is even hotter. It is seriously hot, as you can maybe see from the sprinkler behind me. It's like February lasts forever and then suddenly it's July. Well, I finished reading In the Haze and I was very satisfied. I find it pretty rare for a book to both make me laugh out loud and also burst into tears repeatedly, sometimes in close proximity to one another, and I find that pretty satisfying. And then I have to say, I don't always love books that have a whole lot of romance in them. It's not my favorite plot. The romance is really nicely done in this, and also, although there is plenty of romance, it is clear that the primary relationship that this series is about is the relationship between the sisters, Brittany and Charlie, and they just had a really lovely and totally satisfying arc of their relationship with each other in this book, and as an extension of the arc from the first book, which has to be a pretty hard balancing act to pull off the mini arcs of each book with the main arc of the series in a relationship as complex as a relationship between sisters. And so I thought it was just absolutely lovely. It is available for pre-order now. It comes out July 27th, and there will be a link in the description. My link might only work if you are American, but it'll be there. Look it up if you are somewhere else, because it is absolutely worth a read. You can go ahead right now and get the first book in a mirror if you haven't read that already, but you have, right? Of course you have. I have also started reading Monsters and Imaginary Friends, and I'm super excited about it. So I will continue to vlog my beta reading experience as I move forward with that one. So I will leave links to both Emily Bourne and to Buggy in the description, as well as that pre-order link. Until next time, I am Moonpetrie, and I hope you are having as much fun reading lately as I am having.